Our movie today begins in the land of the Eskimos, surrounded by snow and fog filling the scene. We see Lido, whose job is to hunt wild animals, especially polar wolves, to keep them from bothering the workers who are digging and drilling in the ice. We see Lido walking and talking to himself, saying he must be a sick person to accept a job that involves killing lives, even if they are animals, because, in the end, they're still innocent lives that don't harm anyone unless their territory is invaded. After talking to himself for a while, Lido enters a strange bar where everyone is drinking hysterically. He starts drinking just like them, and with every glass of whiskey he takes, he recalls more memories with a woman named Linda, who we'll learn more about later. After finishing his drinks, he heads home, feeling sad and upset, and starts writing letters to Linda until he eventually falls asleep. The next day, Lido goes to work and sees a wolf approaching the workers. He quickly shoots it, killing the wolf, but then sits down next to it in the snow, visibly sad, and starts touching the wolf, apologizing. At this moment, we realize Lido doesn't enjoy killing animals at all. He's just doing this job because he's forced to. The next day, the workers finish their job and prepare to head back home for 2 weeks of rest before they start their next job. Lido and the rest of the crew board a plane. One of Lido's colleagues tries to strike up a conversation, but Lido isn't in the mood to talk. Once the plane takes off, everything seems fine, and Lido falls asleep, dreaming again of Linda. Suddenly, he wakes up to a violent shaking that lasts for 2 minutes. The shaking stops, and the flight attendant comes out, asking everyone to fasten their seatbelts. Lido senses something is wrong. He looks out the window and sees one of the engines is on fire. Realizing the plane is about to crash, in less than 5 seconds, the plane goes down and crashes into an icy region, surrounded by snow on all sides. After some time, Lido regains consciousness and looks around, processing the wreckage of the plane. He rushes to try and save anyone he can. He finds one of the survivors severely injured, with a dangerous leg wound, so Lido drags him under the plane's wreckage for shelter from the extreme cold and snowstorm. Unfortunately, the injured man dies. Lido gathers the survivors and tells them they need to find water, food, and fire, or they'll freeze to death. They also need to figure out a way to survive until a rescue plane arrives. The group tries to collect anything they can to burn for warmth but finds nothing useful. They end up searching for the plane's fuel container, dousing wood in gasoline, and lighting it up. That night, while everyone tries to sleep inside the wreckage, Lido hears a strange sound. He steps outside to investigate, and is startled to find a wolf trying to scavenge from the corpses. Lido tries to fend it off, but the wolf lunges at him. He raises his voice, alerting his colleagues, who rush to his aid and hit the wolf on the head, causing it to flee. Afterward, Lido tells the group they're in big trouble. If there's a wolf den nearby, they're in danger because wolves will attack anyone who comes near their territory. They need to find a better place to stay and search for the plane's emergency beacon. They do find the beacon, but unfortunately, the signal isn't strong enough to send out a distress call. Lido goes outside to figure out their next move, only to find one of the survivors, named Stan, going through the bodies and stealing from them. Lido angrily confronts Stan, threatening to kill him if he does it again. They return to the fire and discuss their dire situation: no food, no water, and seemingly no way out. In the morning, they wake up to find one of their own dead, killed by wolves. Shocked, they wonder how they didn't hear any noise during the attack. Lido tells them the wolves here are numerous and extremely aggressive. He realizes that their only hope for survival is to leave the crash site and head towards the forest. That's the only way they'll have a chance to escape. However, the person who was stealing from the bodies, named Stan, stands up to Lord and tries to stop him, saying they shouldn't leave. But Lord doesn't care about what anyone says, and he picks up some wood in his hand and decides to go look for the forest. Everyone eventually decides to follow him, and they fill their containers with water and gasoline. When Lido looks at the bodies lying on the ground, he feels a deep sadness and decides to take all the wallets, so he can give them back to the families of the dead if he survives. He tells the others that whoever makes it out alive should inform the families of the others. Leto tries to gather whatever he can to take with him, and he starts collecting firewood. At this point, a man named Albert steps up and says they shouldn't leave without paying their respects to the dead, especially since they can't bury them. Albert stands still, and the others gather around him. They offer a simple farewell to the deceased, then agree to continue their journey toward the forest. But as they walk, their steps grow heavier due to the deep snow, making it hard for them to move. Suddenly, one of them is pulled away, and the wolves start devouring him. Albert rushes to try and save him, but unfortunately, Leto stops him, knowing that if Albert gets too close, he'll die too. They leave him behind and continue their journey, feeling scared and distressed. After a long walk, they finally reach the edge of the forest. But as soon as they step inside, they find wolves circling them from all sides. They quickly start gathering firewood, and after many attempts, they manage to start a fire. Once the wolves see the fire, they immediately retreat because they fear it. They sit around the fire, discussing what they should do next. Leto stands up and grabs some long, sharp sticks. He tells them that this is the only way, and they must each grab a stick, sharpen it, and be ready to defend themselves by stabbing the wolves in the heart. Meanwhile, Stan keeps mocking Leto, unhappy with everything he says. He asks one of the group members to hand him some alcohol, but Leto snaps at him, telling him it's not the time to be drinking. He warns them that if they drink, they'll lose consciousness and won't be aware of what's happening around them. They need to stay alert. But Stan doesn't listen, and a fight breaks out between him and Leto. Before anyone can stop them, they suddenly notice a wolf standing in front of them. They freeze, unsure of how to attack it. However, the wolf doesn't attack either, it simply stares at them and then walks away. 10 minutes later, another wolf returns and attacks them. It bites Stan in the leg, but Leto quickly steps in and manages to kill the wolf. As soon as the wolf is killed, the sound of howling rises from every direction. Leto decides that they should skin the wolf, cook it, and eat it. Although they hate the idea, they have no other choice. Leto assures them that wolf meat isn't poisonous, though it's dirty. Reluctantly, they eat it because they have no other options. After some time, the howling of the wolves grows louder again, and they realize the wolves are closing in on them. Stan, panicked and furious, cuts off the head of the wolf they killed and swears he'll kill every last one of them. But Leto tries to calm him down, saying they need to leave the area immediately. Everyone grabs a torch from the fire, and they begin moving once more. Leto explains that wolves are the only animals that seek revenge for themselves and their pack members. As they walk, one of their companions says he can't go any further and can't move. They decide to stop and rest for a while. Each one of them begins sharing stories about their families and their lives. When it's Leto's turn, he refuses to talk about his life. Instead, he has a flashback to his childhood, remembering how harsh his father was and how he never loved him. His entire life had revolved around his wife, Linda. After a little while, they noticed a lot of snow coming toward them, and Leto informed them that a snowstorm was approaching and that they had to leave the area. As they were walking, the storm really hit, and it was incredibly strong. Their friend, who was already sick, couldn't handle the cold and lack of water and died. Leto was devastated by the loss but didn't know what else to do. He kept crying until the rest of his friends arrived and reminded him that they needed to keep moving, or they, too, would die there. So, he pulled himself together, and they continued walking. As they kept moving, they heard the sound of water, like there was a river on the other side. So, they decided to cross between the mountains, hoping to find a boat that could take them to safety. They took all the fabric they had and made a rope to help them cross. One of them decided to go first to secure the rope on the other side. He managed to jump and secure the rope, but he nearly fell. Just as he was about to fall, Lido grabbed him and pulled him up, but the snow they were standing on began to collapse. In the end, they managed to save him and secured the rope on the other side. After that, Stan, Albert, and Lido crossed. Their fourth companion hadn't crossed yet, and he was afraid of heights. He tried to overcome his fear and crossed the rope, but while holding on, his glasses fell off, causing him to feel dizzy and lose sight of everything. His hand was also injured, and as a result he slipped and fell, crashing through the trees until he died from the fall. As he was falling, he imagined his daughter next to him, wishing he could see her one last time before he passed. Soon after, the wolves appeared and started eating him as the others watched from the top of the trees. When they climbed down, they didn't know what to do, but they decided to keep going. They walked until they reached the river or something that could lead them out of that place. But suddenly, Albert started feeling weak and told them he couldn't go on any longer. He knew his time had come and decided to stay and wait for his fate. They all sat down for a while to rest, and Albert offered to stay behind, telling them to continue without him. However, Lido refused, telling him they had to make it out together. The three of them discussed it for a while, but in the end, Albert stuck to his decision. They reluctantly agreed and left him behind. As they continued walking, Stan started talking to Lido, asking him why he was carrying his rifle and left the bar drunk on the last day before their flight. Lido denied it, and said he was just going to finish his work, but Albert told him he saw him put the rifle in his mouth, like he was going to take his own life. Albert asked him, confused, why someone who once wanted to die so badly was now fighting to stay alive. Lido then explained that ever since his wife, Linda, passed away, he hadn't been able to live, and that was why he had those memories of her, because she had died and left him, and since then, he hadn't known how to live without her. But Lido told him that when he came to this place and realized how close death was, that was the moment he truly understood the value of life and decided to live. Suddenly, while they were talking, wolves appeared and started chasing them. They ran as fast as they could, but unfortunately, they fell into the river. Lido managed to get up, but Stan's foot got trapped between two rocks underwater, and he couldn't get out or breathe. Lido tried everything to save him, even performing CPR, but nothing worked, and Stan died. With Stan gone, Lido was now all alone in the middle of the forest. He screamed and yelled, looking up at the sky, hoping his god would save him from the predicament he was in. But after 10 minutes, he decided to continue on no matter what and kept walking. He walked until he reached the heart of the forest. There, he took out the wallets of all the people who had died and opened them. Inside each wallet, he saw pictures of their families, and how happy they all looked. This reminded him of Linda and their life together. Then suddenly, the alpha wolf appeared in front of him. Lido decided that it was now do or die. He wrapped his arm with some bandages and stuck broken bottles into them, while in his other hand, he held a knife. He closed his eyes and remembered every painful moment he'd been through, and at that moment, he charged at the wolf. And that's how today's movie ends. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget, if you liked the video, support us with a like and a subscribe.